Good morning. We're going to get started. I waited a few moments. Thank you for being patient because we had a few special guests arriving. I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the fall of 2013 Bartels Lecture Series. This series brings to the University of New Haven prominent individuals, politicians, military officials, business leaders, and journalists. In addition to delivering an address to the university community, as we're about to hear, Bartels Fellows meet with students, faculty, and staff throughout the course of the day. That's part of the program. And this program is made possible by two distinguished guests who are here with us up in the top row, Hank and Nancy Bartels, who established the Bartels Lecture Series in 1989 as a way to enhance the intellectual life and the education of our students at the university. The generosity of the Bartels family has profoundly affected every aspect of the university, from facilities such as the Bartels Campus Center, the Bartels Student Activity Center, to endowed scholarships and academic enrichment programs such as this lecture series. The family has also provided leadership on our Board of Governors. Hank Bartels joined the board in 1977, when probably 3/4 of the people in this room were not yet with us, and was elected to the Emeritus Board in 2001. That year, his son Phil joined the board and now serves as its chairman. In recognition of their outstanding leadership, generosity, and service to the University of New Haven, we proudly awarded Hank an honorary doctorate in 1991, and in 2011, we awarded an honorary doctorate to Nancy Bartels and her son Philip, who again is the chairman of the board. I can tell all of you who are students here that the finest role models you could find in this room are on the top floor against the wall there. Some of our most distinguished donors, some of our most distinguished board members are here today. But the two that stand out for all of us, I think, as just amazing role models in what they've not just done for this university, but for this entire community and the nation, are Hank and Nancy Bartels. They've lived rather modestly their entire lives, and they've given enormously. I once was driving with Hank in what I think was about a 1985 Pontiac station wagon. This was when he was, I believe, 86 years old with his windsurfer on the roof. We were going out to go windsurfing, and I asked him why he didn't have a more recent model of the station wagon he was driving, and he said, "Steve," he said, "if I wanted to, I could drive a Rolls Royce, a different colored Rolls Royce every day of the week. It doesn't interest me. What interests me is giving my money away." And that's what Hank and Nancy have done in enormous ways. So Hank and Nancy, would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. And sitting next to the Bartels is someone else who all of the words I just said apply to as well. Her name is on this building through her husband, Robert, and Isabella Dodds, who's in the back row, continues to support this university in very significant ways, both in terms of student scholarships and other things. At the annual scholarship luncheon, we have to put several tables together to accommodate all the students whose studies here are being funded through Isabella's generosity. Isabella? There she is. And joining us today are several other key board members. I won't ask them to stand, but I would like to recognize Bill Bucknall, who's the vice chair of our board, as well as Cecilia Carter, Rosa Gotti, Kevin Myatt, and Stephen Tagliatella, who are with us. And it is now my great pleasure to introduce our fall of 2013 Bartels Fellow, Shelley Stewart, a 1990 graduate of our executive MBA program. A recognized leader in the growing field of supply chain management, Shelley is Vice President of Sourcing and Logistics and Chief Procurement Officer at DuPont, a world leader in market-driven innovation and science. A Long Island native, Shelley earned a bachelor's degree and master's degree in criminal justice at Northeastern University. He went on to spend nearly 20 years at United Technologies. While at United Technologies, he completed UNH's executive MBA program. Shelley, who contemplated attending Columbia, among other high-profile schools, for a master's degree, says instead he chose UNH because of the chance to learn from his classmates as well as his professors. Following his distinguished career at United Technologies, Shelley held executive positions at Raytheon and Invences. Then, as Senior Vice President of Operational Excellence and Chief Procurement Officer at Tyco, he helped the company save $1 billion in just 3 years. In 2012, after 9 years at Tyco, Shelley was recruited by DuPont, the oldest continually operating company in the United States. He oversees a $25 billion budget for procurement. We'd like just 5% of that, Shelley? Including $2 billion in logistics expenses. Last year, Shelley was recognized by Black Enterprise magazine as one of the most powerful executives in corporate America. He is co-author of Straight to the Bottom Line, an executive's roadmap to world-class supply management, which explores the impact of a strategic approach to supply chain management. Shelley Stewart believes that a key to his success has been finding a balance between his professional pursuits, his family, and his community involvement. He is a member of the U.S. Department of Commerce's National Advisory Council on Minority Business Enterprise, is on the board of directors of the Clico Corporation, and is former president of the Boys and Girls Club of Trenton-Mercer County. He and his wife, Ann, have 2 adult children. Today, Shelley will present Creating the Right Balance. Shelley Stewart's remarkable life embodies the balance we strive to find in all of our pursuits. His advice is sure to resonate with all of you, and I would imagine especially our students who are always looking for a little bit of enlightenment on their path going through life. We are fortunate that he's returned to UNH to share his wisdom with all of us today. Please join me in welcoming back Shelley Stewart to the University of New Haven.
Thank you, Steve. I'm going to use technology to keep me on time, okay? And there's a guy over here, I know he's going to chime in if I go over too long. The sales guy, right? You got me, all right? Okay. Thank you so much. What an honor to be here today. Kind of coming home, that's what I like to say. And I know a few people in this audience, and it's great I actually took a moment to meet some of the students that came in because I didn't want them to boo me along the way here. So those guys in the middle there, that remember what I told you. I will pay you after it's over, okay? So I thought about what I was going to talk about today, and this whole concept of a 3-legged stool is really what I want to engage you in. And really, I want to focus my remarks to the students because, you know, Steve talked about my career, but, you know, I was talking to some of the students. I said, I actually have 2 degrees in criminal justice, but I'm a business guy, right? So the route you take isn't always straight, right? And where you end up isn't always where you thought you would end up, right? So I can't tell you that all the things that Steve said about me were planned, right? But I will tell you that I took advantage of every opportunity that I had. So what I want to do is I have some prepared remarks, but I want to talk a little bit about my background so to give you some understanding of who I am and what my foundation is all about. I'm the first person in my family to go to college, and both my dad and mom worked at their jobs for 37 years, different places. My father worked in aerospace, my mother worked at the phone company, and all they knew was we needed to get an education. And it didn't make a difference on what you wanted to be, but you needed to get an education. So in our house, there was no choice. We never thought about going to work after high school. We sat down every night and we did our homework, and you know, we basically did what we had to do. So the interesting thing is we also didn't know how we were going to pay for it at the end of the day. But we didn't even think about that. So get to my senior year, apply to a bunch of colleges. I don't actually have to pay for the applications because I have some waivers that I Xeroxed. So I had multiple waivers. Don't tell anybody that, please. All right? And they don't call it Xerox anymore. They call it copying, right? But we copied these waivers, and they were waivers for the tuition. And so I got an opportunity to visit some schools. And one day I got a letter from Northeastern University, and it says, you've been awarded a Martin Luther King Scholarship, but you have to show up for 6 weeks this summer to receive it. in order for you to qualify for it. So I got an offer from Boston University and a few other schools, but I kind of basically went to the highest bidder, right? So, I mean, because at the end of the day, I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. So I graduate on a Thursday, we jump in the car on Friday, we drive to Boston. And I'm a journalism major, I'm thinking, as I'm walking on campus. That was my goal, to be a journalism major. And we're walking down the street, and this is how life has been for me. And we're walking down Huntington Avenue with my dad and I, and we meet this gentleman, nice tall gentleman with a suit on. He says, "Who are you? Why are you here?" And we talk about, "I'm here for the Martin Luther King Scholarship. I've got to participate in this program." And he says, "Well, come on in my office. I'm the dean of the School of Criminal Justice." So I go into his office with my dad. We talk for a few minutes. We walk out, and my dad goes, "You're a criminal justice major now." And not to knock criminal justice, and the fortunate thing about it, being a criminal justice major helped me meet my wife, which was because she was a criminal justice major also. But I say that to tell you things aren't always planned, right? And so I really enjoyed the criminal justice field, and I was going to go to law school. And I went on to go right to get a graduate degree. And I had a job, and I worked, and I went to school. And then I went back home to New York, and I was going to take a moment out before I went to law school. And I ended up, my dad worked in aerospace. He said, "Look, they've got some jobs open out here at Fairchild Republic. Why don't you come out and talk to them?" So I go out there, and now what are they going to do with a guy with a master's degree and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice in an aerospace company? I didn't know. They put me in procurement, right? I've kind of contracts background. And I did contract work in between school. So they put me in procurement, and this is kind of interesting. The guy sitting to the right of me was the president of the company's son. And the guy sitting to the left of me was the two-star general's son who we were making the airplane for. So it's kind of where they dump people, right? They just put us there, But an interesting thing happened. I really liked it, and I was really good at it. So it just happened, right? I was there 3 years, and a few of the folks that were there with me got recruited to go to United Technologies, and the phone rings, and I get a call from one of them who says, "Look, the place, they work you hard, but they pay well," right? So I said, I'm in. So Bill knows that. I said, but they pay well. So I went there, and the rest of it just kind of happened for me. Right? I really worked hard. I put my head down. I really tried to learn as much as I possibly could in that organization. And it took off. And I had a number of promotions, and I went to the corporate office. I had my last job there, and we did some really great work, and I got recruited away. Right? I still to this day tell people my family is United Technologies, the people I know. Just a side story for a moment. This morning in the hotel in the Omni, this tall guy walks up to me and said, "You're Shelley Stewart, right?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "I worked for you at UTC 15 years ago. He worked for me, and he lived in Russia." So I'm still connected to that corporation in many ways. And so for my career, and I'll just make it brief, but it's not that I can't keep a job, by the way. All right, I know I have had a lot of jobs, but they're all been kind of planned. So I went to Raytheon. I worked at Raytheon for a couple of years, and the Raytheon vibe didn't work for me. It just didn't feel right there. And I got recruited by a former UTC colleague to come work at a company called Invensys, which was kind of a company that had joined together, and it was a bit of a mess, and I lived in London and Boston. My family was in Boston, and I commuted to London. It was fun. I don't know if Ann thought it was fun, but I thought it was fun, right? And so I did that, and then I got recruited by another UTC colleague to, anybody know about Tyco International? Okay, I can tell you the real story if you want me to. But I can tell you that I'm a guy that likes a good party, but I missed the toga party, all right? I wasn't there for that. I came in after that. And this was the most incredible experience of my life. It was a company that had great brands, had great people, and they had two people that were unethical, basically, and didn't do the right thing. And it almost caused this $40 billion company to go upside down. So I came in, I was in the first 10 people that Ed Breen hired. He had fired the whole corporate office. There was nobody left, and we had to start over. We had to rebuild the reputation of the company. We had to deliver better operating performance. We had to go hire good people, and we had to make sure we were focused on ethics. And because that's what caused the impact to the company. It was the most incredible 9 years that I spent in any company, and we made a difference. So if you know anything about what's left of Tyco, Tyco's an $11 billion company. In 2007, we spun out 2 of the businesses. I like to talk about Covidien because that's the best brand placement on that wall. Any Red Sox fans in here? Okay, no clapping back there, okay. But it's on the left field wall, Covidien. They paid $1 million for that the first time they put it up there. And every home run the Yankees hit, you see it every time the ball goes over it. Maybe not this year. But Covidien, Tyco Electronics, now TE Connectivity, the first 2 businesses we spun. And then in 2011, 2012, we spun out the ADT business, the largest residential security company in the world, Tyco. And then we spun out Reverse Morris Trust, and a very complicated discussion. I'll talk about that in the business school today, a flow control business. And amazing, amazing time, and I was going to retire. Well, take some time off. And it lasted 3 weeks. That's how impatient I am. And so this DuPont opportunity came along, and I was telling Celia today that I've worked all my life. I've never not worked. I've either gone to school or worked, so I don't know anything else. And I think it was a little bit of trepidation or fear that if I took some time off, I might not be able to get back in the game. So I didn't take any time off. I took 3 weeks off. As my wife said, it's the shortest retirement of anybody's career. And DuPont is 211 years old, oldest continually operating company in America, and everybody's been there 30 years. So I'm a new guy, right? And I've got the responsibility to try to change this organization to do some things differently. Can I tell you, it is the biggest challenge of my life. And some days I wake up and I say, why did I do this to myself? But then every once in a while, I feel like I'm making progress. I've moved the needle. I told my wife this the other night. I said, some days I come home and say, they won. And most days I come home, I say, I won, right? And it really is about the confidence I have in all the things that I've learned in my career, my background, that I have to call on for all the great companies that I've worked for, and the willingness that the company is at least telling me they have to change. Still remains to be seen, but I'm working hard at it, right? So that's my 30 years in like 10 minutes, right? It was a lot harder than it sounded, trust me, okay? But it's been really exciting. It's been an amazing ride. We've lived in a lot of different places. Ann and I were remarking on the way up here. We've lived in Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and now Pennsylvania, right? And so we're doing this East Coast thing really well, and it's been great. So let me take a moment and just talk to you a little bit about this three-legged stool that I referred to, career, community, and family. I think that the reason that I've been able to be, I think, relatively successful is because of the balance in my life. Steve read my background, but, Boys and Girls Club. I've been on, a number of other organizations in the community that give back to the community. I think for me, it's an outlet. I have a wonderful family. I am the oldest of 6. We have a close family and extended family. So that balance within itself creates real opportunity for me, not just to think about work, but to think about the many things that surround me and the many things that I'm blessed for. So along with that three-legged stool, there's a conversation about, I've been lucky, a little bit of luck, and I think about it, and there's a quote from Gary Player that I have here, and he said, "The more I practice, the luckier I get." Okay? If you think about it from that context, because, luck is only a piece of it, right? You've got to work hard to get after it, and at the end of the day, there's that balance that you have to create between working hard, luck, and enjoying life a little bit. So I have this concept in my head, and it's called the 3 Ps, all right? And the first P is prepare. And you have to be prepared. You must be over-prepared to compete in this global marketplace, right? Because this isn't just about North America anymore. This is about the world. So the people that we're competing with, most of them aren't in this room. Most of them are not on the East Coast. Most of them are not on this continent, right? And I can tell you, having been the Tyco exec to India for the previous 3 years, where I visited India once a quarter for 3 years, and spent a lot of time in China, that that's where the competition is for us and the globe. You need to be you need to be first. You need to want to be first. You need to be hungry, and you need to really focus on excellence. And by the way, I'm not trying to put you in a box here. I'm just trying to tell you, and however that works for you, you have to deal with that, right? Excellence for you might be different than excellence for the person sitting next to you. But you need to think about what excellence means in the context of your life. This world is getting flatter, and you guys know all about that. I actually was watching one of the shows on the TV this morning, and they were talking about it very much this morning about how the world is getting flatter and the marketplace and how people need to understand how to be global. I think the next point is around perform. You must outperform to be recognized as the best. You must outperform to be recognized as the best. This means you need to work harder than any person sitting next to you. In your career, you don't have the chance to get a prize for participating. That's called salary, by the way. If you come to work and participate every day, you get paid, right? But if you perform, other things happen for you. And so that's a true belief I have. Now, someone we don't often quote, and this is an interesting one. I was working with somebody on this, and I said that you guys would get a kick out of this, but I don't often quote Mae West in business speeches, okay? But I'm going to do that because this is such a special place. And so she spoke like an MBA student when she said, "An ounce of performance is worth pounds of promises." Okay? Deliver on your promises at the end of the day. You have to deliver on your promises and your commitments. Now, we've talked, I've been told the Y-Gen. A lot of you folks in here, Y-Gen? Okay. The millennials are lazy, self-entitled. Don't get mad at me. I'm just telling you what people told me, okay? All right? And they think they should be rewarded for showing up. That's not what I see with the young people that we hire at DuPont. They're smart, they're ambitious, and yes, they're hardworking. They defy the stereotypes and perform as professionals that they are. So the interesting thing about that is in a company that's 211 years old, we have to adjust. We have to find new ways to encourage the young people that we bring into our organization to contribute. And it's not easy. It is a struggle, right, to make sure that the workplace is a workplace that's productive for people that think differently about how to get things done. And we're really working hard on that. The third one is, my third P, is persevere. And the world has many challenges, and we have, as individuals have many challenges. And the key is to prioritize and focus and drive hard. And it's hard to prioritize when things really get going quickly, but I think you may occasionally need to remind yourself that you've got to learn how to do it right, right? You can't get it all done. Most of you already know the road is not always straight. I talked about my career. You know, I could have been a lawyer someplace in someone's law firm if I had stuck with criminal justice, and I chose to get an MBA. So don't be afraid to take risks. The other thing, I think, as I think about myself, I had a great career at UTC. I could have stayed there and most of my career, I think. Unless Bill has something in my personnel file that says different. But I took some risk. I said, let's go for it. And I would tell you, along with that risk, I had a family. I had 2 young kids and a wife that had a really, really good job here in Connecticut. But we as a family decided that we would go for it. And so I would tell you, it takes a unit to make those kinds of decisions, and it takes everyone to be focused and be together if you're going to be successful in taking risks. And by the way, you aren't always successful when you take risks. So let me be clear about that now. It don't always work out. So you need to have a backup plan at the end of the day. I know I said 3 Ps, but there's one more. And that's perspective. No matter how important you are, or you think you are, it's just not all about you. One way to demonstrate you have a perspective is by adopting an attitude of servant leadership. And this is something that's come into my life, and I was kind of raised that way, but I didn't even know it. So in my family, there was always somebody showing up at our house that we didn't know, because the way my dad was. And so for me, having young people in general that I'm talking to, that I'm helping, that I'm advising, is natural, right? And it's part of this mentality around servant leadership. It encourages leaders to serve others while focusing on results in line with your values and your integrity. So I'm focused on other people and not just me, and not just my personal accomplishments. A good leader puts the common interest above his or her own self-interest, and I try to do that all the time. It's interesting. My latest one is a young lady who someone put in touch with me. She was coming to DuPont for an interview, and my schedule was so busy I didn't get to her before the interview. And so she was scheduled to call me after the interview, and she didn't get the job. So she called back and said, well, I don't think I need to talk to Shelley. I said, no, I want to talk to her. So I talked. This is how the world works. This is a good story. So I talked to her that day. And I said, what happened? She said, well, I had a really good interview, but I'm terrible on case studies. And they had a case study, and I think I bombed on that. I said, so she's at North Carolina graduate school. And I said, so what's next? She said, well, I got an offer from GE today. I said, where? She said, GE Capital in Stanford. I said, I know the president. I said, so I'll tell you what I'll do for you. Let me connect you with him, Clarence Nunn, right? And so I connected her that day. She took the job yesterday. I mean, that's what makes my world. Those are the kind of things that, you know, I don't get, you know, the rewards I get from that overwhelm anything else that I do at the end of the day. And that's just, I have a million of those. Those things happen to me, but you know what happens? I think at the end of the day, you have to take the time to do those kinds of things, right? I was so upset that the timing for the first call didn't work out. But the timing for the second call was so much better, because she's in the rotational program, the finance rotational program at GE. So I'm really excited for Naima and what she's going to accomplish. And by the way, I asked her to do something for me. I have a young nephew, comes from a single parent family in Philly, and I said, you know how tough Philadelphia is. And she was, let me go back. She was a scholar, the Toll brothers that built homes. She was a Toll Brothers scholar since the time she was 3 years old. They picked her out and said she's an achiever. And so they managed her through junior high school, sent her to private school, paid for her to go to undergrad, pay for her to go to grad school. So when she told me that, I said, well, I want to help my young nephew. So she sent me a list of programs, and she's going to meet with me over the Thanksgiving holiday. So she didn't get what I gave her for free. She helped me too. So at the end of the day, I think these things are two-way streets. So let me talk about the community for a minute. Don't confuse having a career with having a life. Let me say that one more time. Don't confuse having a career with having a life. They're totally different. And that's important for everyone in this room to sort of understand. So many have come from very comfortable backgrounds, and others may face so much economic challenge. Either way, you have to reach out and help someone. You have to reach back. I'm sure you're counting on your education here to be a stop on your path to a very successful life and economic success. At least some degree of material wealth will come as a result of it. And that's okay. But I guess I have another thought about that. And this is a thought that I got from President Obama. That's before healthcare, okay? Focusing your life solely on making a buck shows a certain poverty of ambition, right? If you just focus on making a dollar, you aren't giving back. And if your focus is on the material side of what you can acquire, you're asking too little of yourself. So you have to think about it. There's a balance there, just like there's a balance everywhere about what you focus on. Because at the end of the day, it's got to be right down the middle. One is noted that in real life you have no requirement to do community service. I speak from personal experience that it enriches your life. There are many ways for you to get involved in your community. Seek those opportunities and make sure they fit your personality. You know, especially when you get to a certain point in the career, there are a lot of people looking for you to do a lot of things, and you can't do them all. So you have to find the things that work for you, the things that you have passion for, right? That's an important word, passion. Making sure you have some passion, not just in your work life, not just in your family life, but passion for others. I think that's critically important. So the key here is, you know, we talked about career, talked a little bit about community. Let me talk to you about family. You know, the one thing that has been consistent in my life has been my family. I'm talking my immediate family and my extended family. You know, your job can change, your community can change, your commitment to community can change, but your family can't change at the end of the day. And so the key for us is being focused and helping each other and extending a helping hand back to your family. I can't, you know, there's kind of no lines in my life around that subject, right? Work, community, and family, it all fits together. And I think I'm fortunate because it's not so easy for everyone. But for me, it's been what I think has caused me to be standing here today in front of all of you, is the balance that has been created by this three-legged stool. And, you know, I'm not preaching that it should be that way for you, but I implore you to think about it. You know, what's your balance? What creates balance in your life? When do you feel good? When do you feel successful? When you help someone else? When you get a great grade, right? When you're helping your family? I think those things they have to be a part of your equation for you to truly be successful. And it continues, you know. So here's what I hope you take away today. If you want a balanced life, to make sure you have your three legs on your stool. In your career, be prepared so you can be ready for good luck that comes your way. Perform to the best of your ability while staying true to your moral compass. Persevere and trust your judgment in the face of obstacles, because it's not going to all be easy, and keep your perspective. Remember that you are a part of a community. You can find meaning, and when you need it, you can find help in that community. So you don't always have to give it, you can receive it. And as you're able to help others, I think it will be meaningful to you. And never take your eye off the most important institution of all, and that's family. I don't stand up here and profess to have all the answers. As a matter of fact, when Steve read my CV, I said, that guy sounds old, right? I don't feel old, okay? I feel like I felt 25 years ago, most days. But I feel blessed that I've been able to do the things. I've been so many places, seen the world, but I've worked hard. So I don't have all the answers, and my journey is still continuing, right? Because I'm clear to the people at DuPont that this is my last job. I promise you, Ann, this is my last job, right? But this is not the last thing I'm going to do, right? And at the end of the day, I'm thinking about what's next. I'm thinking about my future. I'm thinking about how I can help, how I can give back to this institution, how I can help my community, how I can help my family. So I just ask you all to think about your stool, the 3 legs on your stool. They might not be the same as mine, right? But at the end of the day, you need to sort of use an analogy like that to help get you through life. But in any journey, you need time to rest for hours, for days, for months, or even years. And it's up to you to create that 3-legged stool so you can sit down once in a while and have a perspective on life. Listen, I'm going to stop here, but I want to tell you that I spent some time with Steve today looking at some of the amazing things that are happening in this university. And you guys are really lucky to be here. And you're really lucky to have a president and a board like the one that you have that has the vision to continue to grow the University of New Haven. A quiet kept secret, but when I was in the EMBA program, Ann and I rode through Stanford last night, my classes were in the GTE building, which isn't there anymore. I don't know what it's called now. And I came to the campus like once or twice a month to visit and do classes here. And now that I come here and visit, I'm like, I should have come here. We should have had our classes here. And such an amazing evolution that's happening around here. So you guys are very lucky. And I'm very lucky to have been invited here today to talk to you. And I want to thank you all. And I'll take any questions you have now. Thanks.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dean of the College of Business, Liz Davis. And Shelley, thank you so much for this presentation. And we now have the opportunity to take a few questions from the floor. There should be students here in the aisles with microphones. So if you have a question, wait for the microphone and identify yourself. So we'll open the floor now. This is just like class.
Yeah, I'm going to call on you if you don't ask it.
That's
you don't
right.
have a mic. Okay, there's a couple. It's my business school guy there.
Thank you for that. I'm Maria Carnascelli from Mechanical Engineering, and I have several of my engineering students here. In summarizing your life in 10 minutes, you refer to several instances where opportunities opened because of people you knew before. And I was curious if you could comment on the value of active networking versus just performing.
Right. I'm the king of networking. I mean, it comes natural to me, so I don't forget names. Like I said, this guy walked up to me this morning in the hotel. I haven't seen him in 15 years, right? So I think having an active network, LinkedIn is a good place to be, if those of you that use it. I I'm not on Facebook and other things, but I'm on LinkedIn because I think LinkedIn has a different purpose. It keeps you in contact with people and people can find you. But creating a good network, staying in touch with people, finding people that have like minds, people in your major, people outside your major. I stay in touch with people that I worked with 20 years ago. It's hard work, and it feels like work. But at the end of the day, if you do it, it turns out to be, you never can tell. There's a reward there somewhere. Just staying in touch or opportunities. Like I said, 2 of my opportunities came from former UTC colleagues just calling me up, right? So I think you have to, by the way, the social media piece of it can play an important piece of it because it's a lot easier today to stay connected than it's been in the past. Thank you.
My name's Christopher Warnes. I'm in the undergraduate business management program with Dr. Mahoney in our class here. First, I just wanted to say excellent presentation, and thank you for coming. My question to you is, I see you have an EMBA, and I'm asking what made you make the decision for an EMBA opposed to an MBA, and I ask because I'm contemplating the same move myself next year.
A couple of things. I had a family and I had a job. Those are the 2 primary issues because I couldn't take, I didn't get that degree until I was in my 40s. So I was fully employed, traveling around the world, and this worked for me, right? And so I think you have to do what works for you at the end of the day. I think the curriculum is exactly the same. I think, though, it fit my time frame. I was traveling. I was working on something, and I was traveling a lot overseas. So I actually turned the airplane into my study hall. It was quiet. And I tell people I did an MBA flying around the world because it was really nobody to talk to, right? So I think at the end of the day, it has to work for you, right? And the EMBA was great for a person that had been working for a long time because most of the people in the class were like me. And they had, great work experiences, and the conversation was really rich in those classrooms about the things that we were working on every day. So I think you have to make that choice, that call. And by the way, one of my classmates, and you guys might know him, I don't know if he's been back here, is Armand Lazan. And Armand is, if you look at Carlisle, he's run 4 of those businesses in Carlisle. He's an amazing guy. He was a different guy too. You could always tell that he was in a different place. And I remember a few people in my class, but I really remember him. If you get a chance, you should Google him. He's a pretty interesting guy. Other questions?
Good morning. My name is Ronald Pierce. I'm a junior here and majoring in business management and music and sound recording. My question for you basically goes along the lines of what he just asked you. How did the EMBA program help to prepare you for what you're doing now? Because you said, this is like one of the biggest challenges in your career. So I guess a 2-part question. How did the program help prepare you? And also, how did your previous career experiences help prepare you for where you are now?
Okay. So I think what the EMBA did was validate for me the things that I had been learning at UTC. And, it's a great company, and sometimes you take things for granted, the training that you get, the exposure that you get to, I was traveling to Israel when I was 28 years old, working for United Technologies. I ran 3 or 4 major subcontracts for an Israeli radar program. So I was going for 2 weeks out every month. And so I didn't realize how much I was learning until I stepped into that classroom and looked at some of the work, talked to some of my colleagues, went through some of the rigors of the program, and I said, you know what? I know this stuff, right? So it sort of gave me confidence in the things that I thought I knew. And by the way, I did learn a few things too to help add on to my experiences. Because I think there's a great balance between classroom experiences and real practical experience, right? And it's interesting. I sit on a public utility board. And I got recruited for that board, and I was like, I don't know anything about public utilities. And they're kind of, the way they make money is totally different than the way I'm used to making money, right? Regulated industries, the FERC, and, you know. But when I sit in those meetings, and I'm the chair of the Nominating Governance Committee, on the Audit Committee, there isn't a problem they walk in that room with, or a discussion they walk in that room with that I haven't seen before. So I feel really great about the ability to make a contribution to that board. So I think, you know, it's a combination of experiences. It's the school work that you get done here and the experiences you have here, and it's the work experience that will combine to help build your confidence in yourself and also let people know that you're really good at what you do. And I'd say, here's an interesting thing. At, you know, there were a lot of opportunities at UTC, and I always I thought I wanted to run a business. And one day a friend of mine, and Bill knows who this guy is, said to me, you know, you keep talking about you wanting to run a business, but you're a really good procurement guy. Why don't you go be the best? And so I went home and thought about that, and I give this friend of mine credit because he focused me. And I said, I'm going to go be the best procurement guy in the world, not in the US, in the world, right? And I'm getting close. If I get another job, I'll definitely be there. But at some point in your careers, you're going to have an inflection. That was my inflection point, where I said, you know what, he's right. I don't want to run a business. I like suppliers, and I like making things happen. I like the control I have over the things that I do, right? And so I think that was for me an inflection point. I didn't say it earlier, but it's a good, it'll happen to you. But you have to know when it's happening. You have to be ready to make that decision. And I made it. And that book that we talked about, it was actually one of the points we were trying to make in that book is how important this procurement space, because everything used to be sort of operations and manufacturing, it's where the dollars went. Well, guess what? I spend $25 billion as a corporation, of a $37 billion corporation, I spend $25 billion of their money, right? So you would think that somebody would be paying attention to what we're doing, right? So, other questions? Yes, sir. Here's one here and here's one here. The chief sales guy at UNH is over here, right?
But the professor.
Oh, not yet.
Abbas Nadim, faculty member, College of Business.
One of my professors, yes, sir.
One of my better students. Would you be so kind to lend your logistic and procurement expertise to the implementation of the Affordable Health Care Act? Because no new system ever works the first time, and all we have to do is look at the Apollo experiment and the space shuttle, and we had our setback, and look at the outcome. So would you be so kind to comment on
let
that?
me just say this to you. When I was at Tyco, I had the opportunity not just to run procurement and logistics, but I ran IT, the gift that keeps giving, right? And so I thought about that because the problem, I think, and I didn't study it, but you know, I'm on this, that appointment that they talked about, the Secretary of, I was appointed by the Secretary of Commerce to MBDA. And when I go down to Washington, I was there recently, I said, you know, you should get some industry people in here to help you out. Because at the end of the day, we dig deeper and wider than you guys were doing. That's their problem. They didn't run the right testing. And they feel like it was disconnected project plans, right? I actually spent a little time thinking about this. I think it was disconnected project plans and different disconnected work streams. And at some point they're supposed to connect, and that won't happen unless somebody owns it at the top. Yeah. And I think they have an owner now. So, you know, we can just, you know, I think it's an interesting, it'll be a case study in your class one of these days, right? Okay, there he is.
Hello, hi. My name is Dean Bandong. I'm actually a major in business management with a minor in sales, so don't worry.
Yeah, but you're a good sales guy. Come on, bring it.
So what advice do you have for the students graduating in the spring? Because I know a big idea is that going into the field of business, a bachelor's degree isn't as strong as it used to be. So a lot of people are aiming to go for masters and doctorates in business. So what's your advice for a student who's graduating in the spring? Would you suggest they take time off, get some fieldwork experience, and then go for a degree, or do you think right after college they should go for a degree in higher education so they're going out like guns blazing into the field? 'Cause I'm thinking about going into a master's program directly after college, but then again, field work is not a bad choice either.
I don't want to make a pronouncement here on that, okay? But I'll give you some opinion. I think it depends on you, first. And second, I'll talk about who I like to hire. I like to hire people with experience, right? So if you go out, come out, and by the way, I know that undergrads don't have experience, and we hire undergrads too. We hire them to give them experience, right? So I think there's a balance. I think it also depends on you, depends on your major, depends on where you want to go, right? But I do think getting out into the work world and getting some real experience will make, and then going back to grad school, will make the classroom experience much more real, right? I just feel that way. That doesn't work for everyone, because it actually didn't work for me. I went straight from undergrad to grad for my first master's degree. But I think it depends on you at the end of the day. But I like to bring, we have a pretty robust undergraduate recruitment program, and we bring them in and put them to work, teach them, and then when they want to go back to school, we say go back, right? Because it works differently for everybody. But for you, I think you should go to work. You're a good sales guy. I'd hire you. I don't have sales though. Okay. So I knew you were going to come see me at the end, right? Okay. You do procurement too, right? I know that, right? You can do it. Sales guys can do everything, right? That's right. Other questions? Come. There's one up there. His mic's not on.
Okay, am I working?
Yeah.
All right. I play football here at the University of New Haven. My name is Zach Guy. I liked how you touched on the aspect of how important family was to you, and you're at the top of the top, and you make a lot of money.
Gotta go now, sorry.
You make a lot of money, and you're at the top of the top. I was just wondering, like, who were some of your role models?
That's a great, my dad.
Your dad?
Yep. My dad was my dad was probably my biggest role model, because he was a guy that his mother died when he was 16 years old. He upped his age and went into the Korean War. Came back, went to work, and although he didn't have an education, he was the smartest guy without a degree I knew. And he was a focused family man. And by the way, our family life wasn't perfect by far, right? So I come from a family that eventually got divorced, but we had love in our family, right? And my father was a guy, I'll just give you a quick, my father was chairman of the labor relations for the IAM union. He was one of the first black union officials in this country at that level. And I remember, I used to love the union negotiations because we used to go to the hotel and swim in the pool, right? The longer they negotiated, the more we got to swim. That's how it worked. So, but I watched my father, I worked in the same place with my father for 3 years, and I watched the respect that people had for him. And I worked in procurement, and, the VP there actually, ran the shipping and receiving place well, where my father actually was the shipping receiving foreman. But he spent most of his time doing union work. But I watched the respect people had for him, and it made me, because he was my dad, right? So it's kind of different. I didn't see him the way they saw him until I went to work there. And I went, wow, how lucky am I, right? And I have a couple of other friends that are role model, and Bill knows one of them, a guy named Hansel Tooks. And Hansel he's been my friend for 30 years. He's one of the first African-American presidents of a business at United Technologies. Was president of Raytheon Aircraft. Sits on 5 boards in corporate America. And he's always there for me, right? And and I'm there as much for him as he is for me. That's the good thing about it. So there's a couple, but my dad is the number one, right? I miss him. He passed about 3 years ago. And I was telling Ann, I'm a hunter, so this is the time of year we get ready to go hunting, and my dad used to run the trip. and now I'm the guy. So I'm thinking, so it's pretty interesting. Everybody calls me, and he was Shelley too. So it's like it's just call Shelley. So, thank you. That was a great question. You got me emotional on that one. That's good. Yeah, football guys. I like them. Make a guy weak on his knees up here, right?
Question down here.
Come on, here's one.
Yep.
Hello. My name is Dan Davies. I'm a junior, also criminal justice major. A lot of us here are like between 18 and like 20 years old. If you could give yourself at 20 years old some advice, what do you think you would say?
Ooh, that's heavy, man. I'll tell you what I said to myself is when I got to school the first year, I kind of felt like I was free, right? And I really didn't focus on school. And I realized why I was there after the first summer, and I came back and said, "You're going to focus." And I don't know what it was. It wasn't one event. It was just, you're here to get an education, and you should avail yourself of every opportunity this university offers, and it offers a lot. And I don't think I took advantage of all those things when I was in school. So I would say, Shelley, take advantage of everything that the university offers. Take advantage of every network that you make while you're here, because they're going to be lifetime networks, and use them to help you along the way. Because it's interesting, you look to the left or right of you, everybody in here is going to be doing something different 20 years from now, right? Some people are going to be here, some people are going to be here. And it's just, you never can tell, right? And I have some amazing people I went to college with, and if I showed you some pictures of us, you would say, I don't believe that, for sure, right? But they're provost of a university, covered the White House for Wall Street Journal, another president of a university. I mean, just amazing people that were just kind of like regular folks, right? So you're going to meet some amazing people here. Make sure you stay connected to them.
Great.
And one more. Anybody else?
Last question.
Last call. Okay. That's the fun part for me. Thank you.
Thank you.